that comes from carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders while pretending it's not crushing you. He had spent years being the rock, the protector, the one who never flinched, never broke, never complained. They called him strong, dependable, solid. But no one ever asked how much it cost him to be that for everyone else. He smiled so others wouldn't worry. He stood, tall so others could lean. He gave pieces of himself to everyone until there was nothing left for him. He became the one people called when their lives were falling apart. The one who always had the answers, always made time, always showed up. And he did it because he loved them, because it's what good men do. But the truth no one talks about is that even the strongest need someone. Even the ones who hold everyone up eventually run out of strength. But no one saw that, because strength is silent, and he had mastered the art of suffering in silence. He didn't know when the cracks began. Maybe it was the moment he swallowed his pain to comfort someone else, or the time he put his dreams on hold to support another, or the 100 little moments he said, "I'm fine," when he was anything but. It builds slowly, this kind of exhaustion, like a slow leak in the soul. You don't notice it until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the man staring back, not because he's broken, but because he's empty. He was tired of always being the strong one, of carrying burdens he couldn't speak of pretending he didn't hurt just so others could feel safe. He was tired of saving everyone but himself. And it wasn't anger that filled him, it was sorrow. The kind of sorrow that whispers, "You matter too." But you've forgotten how to believe it, so one day, quietly and without warning, he made a choice. He chose himself, but it wasn't loud. There was no dramatic exit, no grand announcement. Just a quiet moment where he decided to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't bandage him. He stopped saying yes when his soul screamed no. He stepped back from the chaos and gave himself the permission he never knew he needed, to rest, to heal, to breathe. At first, the guilt was unbearable. He had been conditioned to believe that choosing himself was selfish. That strength meant sacrifice without limits. But he began to understand something vital. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and his had been dry for years. He started small. He said no to things that drained him. He spoke kindly to himself instead of tearing himself down. He gave himself the same grace he had always extended to others. And slowly, the fog began to lift. He remembered things he used to love. He found silence that didn't feel suffocating. He rediscovered the sound of his own heartbeat, not in panic, but in peace. He realized that strength isn't just carrying others. It's knowing when to put down the load and say, "This is too much." It's not weakness to rest. It's not failure to say, "I need help." True strength is not about breaking yourself to keep others whole. It's about building boundaries so you don't become what you're trying to protect others from. People noticed. Some didn't like it. The man who had always said yes began to say no. The one who had always shown up began to step away. And for the first time, he didn't bend to their discomfort, because he had finally chosen himself, and he wasn't going back. He learned that not everyone would understand his journey, that some people only love you when you're useful, when you're convenient, when you make their lives easier. But the ones who truly care, they stayed. They respected the shift. They didn't guilt him for growing. They celebrated his healing. And in their presence, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Safe. He still had moments of doubt. Nights where the old voices crept in, telling him he was letting people down. But he reminded himself, for years, he let himself down to please others. He had betrayed his own needs to meet the expectations of the world. Not anymore. This time, he chose to be loyal to his own soul. And in doing so, something beautiful happened. He got stronger, not in the way the world measures strength, but in the way that matters most. He became grounded, present, whole, the kind of man who didn't need to perform to feel valuable, who didn't need to fix everything to feel worthy. He became a man who understood that choosing himself wasn't a betrayal, it was a revolution. He found clarity in the quiet, power in solitude. He began to live not for applause, not for acceptance, but for peace, for truth. He stopped chasing approval and started chasing authenticity. He no longer carried everyone's storms, he walked through his own and came out cleaner, calmer, and more alive. This choice changed everything. He became the man who leads with empathy, but doesn't sacrifice his sanity. The one who shows up, but not at the cost of his soul. He learned to say, "I love you, but I need space." To say, "I care, but I need rest." He didn't stop being strong. He redefined what strength meant. And in doing so, he gave others permission to do the same. His life didn't suddenly get easy, but it became his. And that made all the difference. He no longer lived on autopilot, going through the motions. He felt things again. He laughed louder, cried freer, loved deeper. He wasn't numb anymore. He wasn't surviving, he was living. Because he had made the bravest decision of all, to choose himself not just once, but every day after. He learned that being there for others is beautiful, but being there for yourself is sacred. That you can't be everyone's lifeline and expect to stay afloat. That the man who holds everyone else up must also hold himself. So if you're tired, truly tired, know this. You're not weak for feeling it. You're not selfish for needing space. You're not broken for choosing yourself. You're human, and you deserve the love you so freely give to others. You deserve peace. You deserve rest. You deserve to be held, not just hold. To be seen, not just see. To be heard, not just listen. And most of all, you deserve to live. He learned that choosing himself didn't mean turning his back on others. Meant finally facing himself. And in that sacred space where pain met healing, he found what he had been missing all along. Home. Not in a place, not in another person, but in his own soul. He was tired of being strong for everyone. So he chose himself. And that choice didn't make him weaker, it made him whole.